Okay, we're going to continue in this online class, Algebra 2, the addition, subtraction of fractions. This is a review before we start addition and subtraction of rational expressions. For example, this review is asking you to rewrite with a common denominator, then simplify the numerators. All answers should be in a simplest form. They are asking you to simplify the solution. We have some examples, and I'm going to solve some examples. And as you're going to have some problems at the end that I'm going to solve, but I'm going to ask you to at least pause the video and you give it a try. That's the only way we're going to be successful in this part of the class. For example, in this case, there are several ways to solve this problem. So what I have first is a subtraction. So I have 3/8 minus 3 over 4. What I'm going to do first is try to find the least common denominator. In this case, what I'm going to do is remember that I need to factorize the denominators in a prime number. So for example, if I have a, then you say a is divisible by 2. So I have 4. 4 is divisible by 2, which is 2. Now I have that a is equals to 2 times 2 times 2. Now let's do 4. Okay, I have 4 here. So 4 is divisible by 2, which is 2. So 4 is equals to 2 times 2. Now, how do I find the least common denominator? In this case, your least common denominator is going to be the smallest positive number divisible by both denominators. So we're going to find a number that is divisible by both denominators. In this case, it's going to be a. But how do we find that from this expression over here? Okay, so we have 2 is common in both. So I have 2 times, I have 2, and because it's the least common denominator, I have this one, these 2 that I'm going to also multiply. So I have 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So 8 is my least common denominator between 8 and 4. So this expression is becoming equals to, okay, knowing that 3 over 8 is the 8 is the least common denominator. Now I need to figure out, you can ask the question, how much you need to multiply 4 to become 8. In this case, you can multiply 4 times 2. But you have to multiply the numerator at the same time. So in this case, you have 3 over 8 minus 3 times 2 is 6 over 4 times 2 is 8. And then you have the subtraction of two fractions with the same denominator. So in this case, you have 3 minus 6 is negative 3. And then the denominator is the same. So that's one way, that's the way we're going to do in this class to subtract and add fractions. Okay, that's example number 1. Let's do example number 2. As you can see, 5 and 7 are prime numbers. 5 and 7 are prime numbers. So I have 5 and I have 7. So the least common denominator is equals to 5 times 7 equals to 35. It's going to be my least common denominator. In this case, you can ask, if you have 35 as least common denominator, which number are you going to multiply 5 to become 35? In this case, which number is that one? 7. So 5 times 7. 3 times 7. If you multiply the denominator, you have to multiply the numerator. So in this case, which number you need to multiply 7 to become 35? In this case is 5 times 5. So this expression is equals to 3 times 7. In this case is 21 over 35 plus 5 over 35. Now you have the addition of two fractions with the same denominator. So I'm going to do it here. We have plenty of space. 21 over 35 plus 5 over 35 is equals to 21 plus 5 is equals to 26 over 35, which we just copy the denominator, and that would be my solution. Well, the next question we'll see will be, can I simplify those fractions? In this case, it's going to be no, you cannot simplify it, so this is my solution. Example number 3. Now you have, in this case, you have variables. You have a and a squared, and it's the opposite of factorization. In factorization, we choose the least exponent. With the least common denominator, we're going to choose the highest exponent. So in this case, what is the least common denominator? Look at this example, the previous one, 5 and 7. We know the least, I'm going to put here, least common denominator between 5 and 7 is 35. So what is the least common denominator between a and a squared? And I'm going to say is a squared. We go the opposite of factorization. And then you ask the same question. What number I'm going to multiply 7 to become 35 a squared? In this case, you include the variable. So in this case, I'm going to write it here. So I'm going to have 2 times over 7 times, then I have a, and then I'm going to write 5 because it's 7 times 5, and then you have a squared. So we need to multiply by a. Okay, don't forget, you multiply denominator and numerator, plus which number you need to multiply 5 to become 35a squared. Well, I have a squared, so I just need to multiply 5 times 7. So in this case, you're going to have 4 over 5 times 7 a squared, 4 times 7. And then you simplify. 2 times 5 is 10a over 7 times 5 is 35a squared. A times a is a squared, and plus 4 times 7 is 20a over 35a squared. Then you simplify these two, so it's equals to, the denominator is the same, 35a squared. We copy the denominator. The numerator is just expression 10a plus 28, and that will be your solution for problem number 3, example number 3. Please, for your turn, you can pause the video, give it a try to the problems. It's going to be, at the beginning, it's just a review. So pause the video at this moment and give it a try to the following problems. Then ask the question, then look the rest of the video. So pause the video. Okay, problem number 1, your turn. So you have 3 over 10 minus 1 over 5. You need to find the least common denominator between 10 and 5. Okay, 10 and 5. In this case, is going to be, remember, if you want to do step by step, is fine with me. So you have 10 equals 2. If you factorize 10, is 2 times 5. And then if you have 5, it's a prime number, so it's just 1 times 5. So what you have, the least common denominator is 2 times 5 equals 10. So in this case, remember, the next step is 10 is here, so you don't have to modify the denominator of this fraction. But in this fraction, which number you need to multiply 5 to become 10 is 2. So times 2 times 2. Then what we're going to have, 3 over 10 minus 2 over 10. Then you simplify. You subtract the numerators, and the denominator is going to be the same. So I have 3 minus 2 is 1 over 10. And that will be my solution for this problem. Let's do problem number 2. So I have 7 over 16 plus 5 over 6. First step, you need to find the least common denominator. So you have that 16. Remember, I'm going to do it here. 16, if you divide by 2, is 8. Then A is 2 times 4. Then 4 is 2 times 2. So 16 is equals to 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then 6 is 2 times 3. So what is the least common denominator? Is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3, which is equals to 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 is equals to 48. That's my least common denominator. Okay, so what we do here, which number multiplied by 16 will give me 48? I don't have any variable in the denominator, so it's easier just to look at this number. You have 16. Remember that 16 is 2 multiplied 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. So which number multiplied by 16 will give me 48? 3. So you multiply 16 times 3, 7 times 3, numerator and denominator, plus 5 over 6. Which number multiplied by 6 will give you 48? Okay, 2 times 3 is 6. What do you have left? 8. So in this case, 6 times 8, 5 times 8. So what I have 7 times 3. In this case is 21 over 48 plus 5 times 8 is 40 over 48. Then you add the numerators. 21 plus 40 is 61 over 48, and that is your solution. Problem number 3. Let me move this one a little bit. Same situation. You find the least common denominator. That's a practice that you need to do in every problem. Once you get enough practice, you don't have to do it. So in this case, if you have 12, okay, 12. So 12 is divisible by 2, which is 6. 6 is divisible by 2, which is 3. So 12 is equals to 2 times 2 times 3. Then I have A, which is equals to 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, so what is the least common denominator? Is 2. See, I'm just 2 times 2 times 3, or times 2. You can choose the least prime number times 3. So what number is that one? 2 times 2 times 2 is 8 times 3 is 24. So 24 is the least common denominator. So in this case, which number multiplied by 12 is going to give you 24? In this case is 2. So 12 times 2. If you multiply the denominator, you multiply the numerator times 2. Okay, let's do this next fraction. Which number multiplied by 8 will give you 24, which is just is your least common denominator? So it's times 3 times 3. We need to be careful because both numbers are negative. So positive and negative is negative. So I have negative 14 over 24. Positive and negative is negative 9 over 24. So this one is equals to, is the addition of two negative numbers. So I have negative 14 plus negative 14 minus 9 is equals to negative 23 over 24. And that will be my solution for problem number 3. Let's move to problem number 4 here. Problem number 4, what I have is 3 over 2x plus 5 over 6. I have a variable, so it's x. So in this case, the least common denominator between 2 and 6. Remember that 2 is equals to 2 times 1. 6 is equals to 2 times 3. So it's equals to 2 times 3 equals to 6. 6 is the least common denominator. And now let's look at the variable is x. So we're going to add the variable with the highest exponent. In this case is x. what I'm going to do now. Okay, you ask yourself, which number multiplied by 2 will give you 6? I got x already, so I don't have to ask the question about x. So I have 3 over 2x plus 5 over 6 is what I'm going to do. So in this case, I need to multiply 3. Which number multiplied by 2 will give me 6 is 3 times 3. And then here, which number multiplied by 6 will give me 6 is 1. So I don't have to multiply 6 by any number because 6 times 1 is 1. But I'm missing the variable x. So I'm going to multiply by x. So it's x times x. Now what I do, simplify. So I'm going to have 3 times 3 is 9 over 2 times 3 is 6x plus 5x over 6x, and I'm going to put it together as a one fraction. So this is equals to 6x, and then I have 9 plus 5x, and that will be the solution for problem number 4. And in this case, let's move to problem number 5. Okay, let's move to problem number 5. What I have is what is the least common denominator between 4 and 20. So if you have 4, you know it's 2 times 2. If you have 20, is equals to, if you factorize, is 2 times 5. And then the least common denominator is 2 times 5, which is equals to 20. Now, both denominators got t, so you don't need to modify this 20t. So in this case, I'm going to say is 20t because I have t in both. Then I have 4 and 20. So the question is, which number would you multiply this fraction to make this denominator equals to 20t times 5? So I'm going to times 5 times 5. Then I'm going to have 3 times 5 is 15 over 4 times 5 is 20t minus 7 over 20t. The denominators are the same, so we're going to put 20t, and then 15 minus 7 is 8. I can simplify this fraction. 8 over 20 is equals to 8 divisible by 2 is 4. 20 divisible by 2 is 10t. We can continue simplifying. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 10 divided by 2 is 5t. And this will be my solution. Okay, problem number 6. What we're going to do, least common denominator every time. If you don't have that practice from middle school, you need to do it every single time. I know it gets annoying at some point, but we need to practice the least common denominator. So in this case, you have 9 and 5. So look at this one. So I have 9 is equals to 3 times 3. If you factorize 9, is 3 times 3. And then if you have 5, it's a prime number, so it's just 5. Okay, 5 times 1, but I'm not going to write 1 because it's not necessary here. So what we have, 3 times 3 times 5. See, you multiply every single number. In this case here, I don't multiply 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 because I'm just pairing those who are already there. So that reason why I just cross out and I put 2. 2 times 5. If they are matching, you don't multiply twice, it's just once. In this case, I have 3 times 3 times 5 because they are not common. So in this case, what I have, 3 times 3 is 9 times 5 is 45. Now let's look at the exponents, at the variables. So I have a and a to the third power. So I'm going to choose a to the third power. Okay, let's look at the fraction to see which number are you going to multiply 9 to become 45, a to the third power. Okay, a to the third power is already there, so I don't need to multiply the variable by anything. But 45, 9 times 5, so in this case will be 5 times 5, and 9 times 5, a to the third power, plus 4 over 5. Which number multiplied by 5 will give you 45? is equals to 9. So times 9 times 9. Then you have a, but you need a to the third power. So we're going to multiply times a to the second power times a to the second power. And let's simplify it. So in this case, it's equals to 25 over 45 a cubed plus 4 times 9 is 36 a to the second power over 45 a to the cube equals to 25 plus 36 a squared over 45 a to the third power. And that will be your solution. If you have any question, you can leave any comment and ask a question, send me an email, or please try to contact me, and I'll make sure I contact back. So I hope you have a wonderful day. As you can see, look at this one. If I get here to the window, it's snowing. It is cold outside today, so I hope you all staying safe and healthy.